This is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. I may or may have not skipped the last Ultra series of the Samsung, which was the Galaxy S24 Ultra. However, I do know enough to know that, rumor has it, the update from S24 Ultra to the S25 Ultra is quite a minor one. As with most phones over the past year, essentially what you're really expecting here is a minor spec bump, very minor design change, and a few software changes that you can get on the old phones. But I'm going to dive into specifics a bit more in a second. But in terms of the unboxing experience, as usual, phone at the top, no power brick as it has been for the past many years now. You get a USB-C to USB-C cable, the typical manual paperwork information, and a SIM card ejection tool. Now, in terms of the design and build, you'll notice it is a very similar design to the S24 Ultra. Very boxy, very sharp edges. In terms of the differences, you're going to notice that the sides are slightly more squared off, so a little bit more sharper, and the corners are slightly rounded in comparison to the very sharp corners that they had previously. And the rings around the camera bump are also a little bit larger. In terms of the S Pen, there's been a downgrade here, which I will explain in a bit. But you know what, Samsung this year have got me loving the build quality as typical, but every year with every new design, I love the build quality just a little bit more. Just a few months ago, I was saying that I love the build quality of the Pixel 9 and I thought it was one of my favorite. But do you know what, I don't know, I think this is my favorite. They've got a titanium frame on the sides, which are matted, and I just think it works really well. It looks really good, feels really good. And I've heard a few complaints in terms of the rounded corners and the edginess for the sharp edges because of the boxiness, just kind of being a little bit uncomfortable in the hand. But I'm going to be so honest, like, I don't really think it makes any big of a difference. I've never once held this phone and thought, yeah, this is uncomfortable to hold. But maybe that's because I'm used to larger phones and I have used the Ultra series for a while. And then the display, as beautiful as ever, as I was saying, the display as beautiful as ever, slightly larger now at 6.9 inches rather than 6.8 inches, and that is because they've shrunk the bezels. The body of the phone is essentially the same size, probably a little bit smaller if you were to like compare millimeter by millimeter, and it's even a little bit lighter. It's 218 grams now versus 233 grams on the S24 Ultra. But because they've shrunk the bezels and the body is slightly smaller, the screen is now bigger, which is always a bonus. But in terms of everything else when it comes to the display, it is exactly the same minus that slight size increase. It's 120 Hz, 2600 nit peak. It's an 8-bit display, not a 10-bit display, unlike most Chinese manufacturers nowadays, which is a little bit disappointing. They've still got that anti-reflective display, which is always good to have, but they haven't really upgraded anything here. And remember how I said it's just a really minor spec bump. I'm going to just walk you through the specs of the S25 Ultra and kind of highlight any changes from the S24 Ultra. If I don't highlight a change, just assume it's the same. So for the build, it's Gorilla Glass front and back with a titanium frame. The glass has been upgraded from Corning Gorilla Armor 1 in the S24 Ultra to Corning Gorilla Armor 2. Essentially what this means is you're getting enhanced durability, better scratch resistance, and you're getting those anti-reflective properties, which is a nice little feature to have. And I'm kind of interested to see how that will work, which I'll tell you about in a full review once I've really gotten to experience the phone. As I told you, the only difference with the display is it's slightly bigger at 6.9 inches rather than 6.8 inches in the S24 Ultra. Other than that, 120 Hz, 2600 nit peak, 8-bit, nothing changed there. In terms of the cameras, every single camera is exactly the same except for the ultra wide. So for the main lens, you're getting a 200 megapixel sensor. There's a 3x telephoto with a 10 megapixel sensor, a 5x telephoto lens with a 50 megapixel sensor, and then the difference with the ultra wide is it is 50 megapixels rather than 12 megapixels, so a bit of a higher quality there. just like last year, you can record up to 8K at 30 frames per second, 4K at 120 frames per second, or 1080p at 240 frames per second. And then for the front camera, it's the same thing as last year, 12 megapixels, records up to 4K at 60 frames. Good cameras as it was last year. I think overall you can expect a very similar performance. I'd be interested to see how different the ultra wide is with that new lens, but in terms of doing a camera demo, I'm not quite there yet. That's going to be for the full review. Obviously, this is just a first impressions video. In terms of water and dust resistance, we've got IP68 water and dust resistance, as it has been for the past many years, God knows how many years. Little bit disappointing that we don't have IP69 water and dust resistance now that that's a thing, or a somewhat common thing, especially in the Chinese brands. So just another example of just Samsung just really not really going for it this year, not really trying to max it out. One thing that's looking pretty good is when you look at the processor, they've upgraded from the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is a 4nm chip that was in the S24 Ultra, to the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is a 3nm chip, and it's one of the faster chips out there, and speed does seem like, for the foreseeable future at least, will be a very capable and strong part of this phone. And then additionally, you've got the ultrasonic fingerprint as per usual. Now, the final kind of specification, one that you would hope to see continuously improving along the years, but is exactly the same as it was last year, is the battery. You've got a 5000 mAh lithium battery. Now, 5000 mAh is a pretty decent size, and it should get you through the day, but nevertheless, you always do want your battery life to continuously improve, and the tech for it is very much there. A lot of the Chinese manufacturers and newer phones coming out more recently are using, rather than lithium batteries, carbon silicon batteries, which are basically thinner, higher density batteries. To kind of expand on that, lithium batteries use a graphite anode, and silicon carbon batteries use a silicon carbon composite anode. And silicon carbon stores up to 10 times more lithium than graphite, which therefore means you're getting a higher energy density and therefore a longer battery life without increasing the size of the battery. On top of this, silicon carbon batteries charge faster because of silicon's ability to absorb lithium ions a lot more efficiently. And we're talking about around like 80% in 15 minutes. Those are the sort of speeds of charging that we're talking about. And then on top of that as well, just silicon carbon batteries in general have a longer lifespan. So they become weaker and worse, slower over time than lithium does. So when you're getting a phone with a carbon silicon battery, that battery isn't going to become awful in a few months' time, as a lot of people will experience with their phones. Additionally, improved thermal stability, so less overheating as well. So essentially just a little bit unfortunate that Samsung aren't offering this with their latest and greatest Ultra named phone. And that's kind of that for the specs. Now, I mentioned briefly earlier that the S Pen has been downgraded, and specifically what I meant by that is they have removed Bluetooth from the S Pen. So the S Pen in the S24 Ultra and the phones before that had Bluetooth, now it doesn't, which I think is just a bit of a shame. I don't really care for it, I don't really use it, but why remove a feature? The Bluetooth allowed you to do things like control the camera app without actually touching the phone. So say you had the camera set up on a tripod, you could take photos just by pressing a button on the S Pen that was in your pocket. Now you can only use the button when you're actually interacting the pen with the display. So if you want to use it to erase things, or press the button and double tap on the screen for notes, or press the button and hover for air commands, and that's kind of it. You can buy the S Pen separately with Bluetooth, so it seems to clearly be some sort of marketing thing here to try and get a little bit more money out of you, but also they might be trying to push you to get their new watch, which does similar things such as the camera control. So maybe that's why they've removed that feature in inherently being in the S25 Ultra. Now the final thing to talk about is software, because that's where most of the changes are. However, something to keep aware of is recently Samsung have been promising 7 years of software updates on their new flagships, which basically means every single software update and software feature that we're getting here is going to come to the S24 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. But nevertheless, One UI 7, Android 15 does come with this phone, and in terms of what you're getting on it, as you can imagine with every phone and software update this year, is a lot of AI features, which are as follows. So firstly, just kind of to let you know, Samsung like to label these as their Galaxy AI features. And the first one is Gemini, which is Google's AI assistant, but with a little bit of involvement from Bixby. So there's a little bit of a collaboration there where when you talk to Gemini, sometimes it will refer to Bixby or use Bixby to do certain things. And most of the time when you talk to Gemini, it's just Gemini responding back to you with whatever it's capable of doing. But sometimes it can use Bixby's ability to reach into apps and perform in-app actions, such as, for example, adding an event to your Samsung calendar. And that's if you use the Samsung calendar. Another feature by Samsung is something called AI Select, and this allows you to select whatever is currently on your screen, and based on what it is, it can suggest things that you can do with it to kind of just help you out based on the context. So say you select some text that's in front of you on the screen, it can offer to summarize it for you. Say you select a video that's in front of you on the screen, it can offer to turn it into a GIF, GIF, I don't know how you say it. Or say there's some foreign language in front of you, it can offer to translate it for you. You don't ask it to specifically do these things, you just open AI Select, select what's in front of you, and it makes suggestions based on what it sees. Another AI feature is natural language processing in the settings and gallery search. So this I think is actually really useful. You can use regular sentences in the search of gallery or settings to find what you're looking for. So say you write in the settings something along the lines of, the screen is too yellow. It will then direct you, just from writing that regular sentence of your concern, it will offer certain settings about the display that allow you to change, say, the color temperature of the display because it's too yellow. So this will be really useful for people who tend to struggle to find certain settings, because now you can kind of just put your problem in the search bar and it will offer the solution, which I think is a really, really good use of AI here. And then another feature that I do think is quite cool is an audio eraser tool for the gallery. So what that allows you to do is, in the videos that you record, you can remove wind, you can remove crowd noises, you can isolate voices, you can remove background noises, and you get the options to kind of play around with that and maybe make the audio a little bit better. So that I can imagine being quite useful. And then on top of that, you'll get whatever Google offers in terms of AI features, but it's mostly just Gemini stuff. And that's kind of it. I have somehow managed to waffle on for about 12 minutes, even though this is a very, very near identical phone to last year, but I didn't review last year's phone, in all fairness. But that's kind of the difference here. I think when it comes down to just based off first impressions, kind of seeing whether it's worth it or not, considering the fact that it's priced at $1,300 or £1,250, I don't really see why you'd buy this phone when most of what you're paying for you can just get in a software update, and all you're really paying for when it comes to the differences in comparison to last year is an extra year of software updates 7 years down the line, a slightly faster chip, a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera which you probably won't be able to tell the difference with, and a very slightly lighter and changed form factor with a 1-inch larger screen, and you're paying for a downgraded S Pen. Bear in mind as well, this is a phone 2025 that doesn't have the best tech in it. There are better phones out there for cheaper money that offer, for example, a silicon carbon battery, but this one doesn't. So I don't know, there's a few factors to consider here. Maybe it's worth skipping this phone, waiting until next year, or getting the S25 Ultra, or just looking at a new brand entirely. But in terms of first impressions, that's kind of everything I have to say. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a like and comment for the sake of the algorithm. Check out my Instagram at El-Naggar for a behind the scenes perspective on everything. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Salam.